The drama begins with the male lead, Gushi Chung, driving to the office in his car. Suddenly, he gets a call from his assistant. He says, "Project members are asking for a price increase." Gushi Chung responds, "I've already given them a higher rate. We won't increase the price now." Explain everything to them in detail. Next, the female lead, Su-Yan Shi, is shown checking her beauty products during a live broadcast. While heading for an interview, she sees Shi Chung on the road. She notices Su-Yan running towards her when a car approaches her at high speed. Shi Chung blocks the car with his own. Su-Yan shockingly says, "Don't you know how to drive?" Gushi Chung leaves without saying a word. In the next scene, Shi Chung arrives at the office. All the employees welcome him. His assistant informs him, "The meeting is ready. I'll find a girlfriend for you in 5 minutes." Shi Chung says, "There's no time for that now." Meanwhile, Su-Yan comes to the same company for an interview. An employee tells her, "Today's interviews are over." Su-Yan, showing her resume, says, "Please take a look at this." The employee replies, "Okay, please wait here." Some girls come in for the interview. Su-Yan thinks it's for the broadcasting job and joins them. Meanwhile, Shi Chung is interviewing candidates for a girlfriend. He doesn't like any of them. When Su-Yan enters Shi Chung's office, he looks at her. Shi Chung asks, "How much money do you want?" Su-Yan responds, "If you understand my value, then 50,000 per month will be fine." Shi Chung says, "Give me your ID card. I'll get your contract done, and from today, you'll be with me for 24 hours. Su-Yan happily gives her ID card, but then suddenly remembers something. She says, "You said I'll have to stay with you for 24 hours. Shi Chung replies, "Yes, I'll pay you 50,000 every month, but you'll have to stay with me for 24 hours. Su-Yan says, "I came here for an online broadcasting interview, but you want to buy me." Shi Chung says, "You yourself mentioned your price." Su-Yan says, "I won't work here." As she starts to leave, a vase slips from her hand. Shi Chung catches it, but some flower leaves fall to the ground. Thorns prick Shi Chung's hand, and blood starts oozing out. The assistant asks, "What happened?" Shi Chung says, "Nothing. Take these roses away. If grandmother hadn't forced, this girlfriend matter wouldn't have started." The assistant says, "Maybe this way you'll find your soulmate. Your grandmother also wishes for this." Shi Chung says, "Stop the interviews," and heads to the meeting. In the next scene, Shi Chung is talking to his grandmother. He says, "Go for the checkup." Grandmother says, "Okay, but find a girl and be in a relationship so that I can see my grandson's children." Shi Chung says, "I have an important call," and cuts the call. Then Su-Yan passes by. She stands in front of Shi Chung's car door. When Shi Chung opens the door, Su-Yan starts falling. He catches her and accidentally they kiss. The camera in front records their moment. Shi Chung gets scared and steps back. So Su-Yan also stands up. He says to her, "I didn't do it on purpose." But Su-Yan walks away saying, "You stay quiet. I don't know you." Next, a scene outside a hospital is shown where Su-Yan had admitted her mother. She was outside to meet her friend when suddenly a woman starts walking in front of a car. She says, "Are you trying to run me over with your car?" Su-Yan starts making a video and the woman runs away. Shi Chung's grandmother was in that car and she thanks Su-Yan. After that, as she leaves, the grandmother says, "What a lovely girl. I wish Shi Chung would like a girl like her." In the next scene, the grandmother sees the kissing video of Shi Chung and gets very happy, thinking that now Shi Chung will get married. Then she looks closely and remembers, "This is the same girl who helped me today." She says, "Fate is kind to us." Just then, Shi Chung arrives, and the grandmother shows him the video too. He gets shocked and says, "I don't know her." But the grandmother gets angry and her health deteriorates. She says to Shi Chung, "You have been hiding your problems from me since childhood, so I want you to choose a wise girl for yourself and get married. This is my last wish." In the next scene, the assistant shows him a girl's resume, and Shi Chung says, "Why do I feel like this is not the girl?" The assistant says, "This is the one, sir." Now we are shown Su-Yan's twin sister named Jin. She is shopping and sees a scar on her face in the mirror, remembering that the doctor had said if she doesn't get surgery. Just then, she finds out that the bank has blocked her cards. So she leaves the mall and meets Shi Chung. He asks her to sign a contract. "You will be my girlfriend, but there will be no relationship between us." She signs the contract and says, "Pay me half now." Outside, she thinks, "Is he mistaking me for Su-Yan?" In the next scene, Su-Yan is telling a child, "I don't have money to pay the hospital bill." Just then, Jin comes to Su-Yan. Su-Yan doesn't want to talk to her. Jin shows her face and says, "If I don't get surgery, my face could get infected." Su-Yan says, "But I can't do anything for you." Jin shows her the contract she made with Shi Chung and says, "With this money, both my and mom's treatment will be done. I have paid the hospital bill." Su-Yan says, "I can't scam anyone." Jin says, "He wants to make you a fake girlfriend to make his grandmother happy. If you don't want to see mom dying, then agree." Su-Yan agrees. Jin says, From today, you are me, and I am you. Don't let Shi-chung feel that you are not Jin, but Su-yan. After that, she gives her a card and leaves. In the next scene, Su-yan, dressed like Jin, goes to the hotel. Shi-chung pulls her into the room. Then they both sit at a table. Shi-chung asks her to write about herself. Su-yan asks, why? He explains, we have a contract between us. If grandmother finds out that we don't know each other, our plan will fail and you won't get the money. Su-yan thinks, if I don't get the money, how will my mom's surgery happen? I'll write everything now. After that, Su-yan folds the paper and looks at Shi-chung. He asks, did you write everything? She gives him the file, and Shi-chung gives her his information. Seeing this, Su-yan says in shock, he has so many hobbies. Shi-chung says, you have to remember all this. Leaning over her, Shi-chung says, if you don't succeed in acting in front of grandma, all your money will be deducted. Now, Su-yan walks away from him. Shi-chung starts smiling. Later, Su-yan is reading his report and says, why does everything need to be equal for you? Shi-chung comes close and unties her hair, saying, I need everything in equal quantity, including you. Then Shi-chung says, let's get married, which shocks Su-yan. Su-yan says, this was not in the contract. Shi-chung says, I told you about grandma. Su-yan says, there's no need to get married for that. Shi-chung says, we can just have a contract marriage or take some photos to show grandma. Su-yan agrees. Then Su-yan goes into the elevator where Shi-chung is present. Shi-chung tells her to come in. His grandma is also there and asks Su-yan, how are you? Su-yan recognizes her. Grandma says, I love both of you very much and want to see you married. Let's keep it for tomorrow, and says to Su-yan, you stay at our house now. Su-yan says in shock, why should I stay at your house? Grandma says, you are marrying Shi-chung, so stay with us. As Su-yan is about to say something, Shi-chung holds her hand, stopping her, and says, we also want to get married, but not so soon. Grandma then pretends to be in pain again, so Shi-chung agrees. Later, Shi-chung takes Su-yan with him. Grandma starts smiling. Now Su-yan says, it's not written in the contract that I have to stay at your house. Shi-chung says, don't worry, I won't come close to you. When grandma's health gets better, you'll get the remaining money. Su-yan agrees. In the next scene, Su-yan tells everything to her friend, who gives her some things. Use these for your safety, and then leaves for work. Su-yan picks up a product to check, but gets an electric shock. Su-yan thinks, I don't think I'll need these things. Now Su-yan gets a call from Jin, who tells her, I am taking mom abroad. Su-yan says, you can't take her abroad. But Jin hangs up. Now Su-yan is heading to the airport after her, when she gets hit by a car and falls unconscious. When she regains consciousness, Fu-bo is there with her. Meanwhile, Shi-chung learns about Su-yan's accident. Now Su-yan's friend has also arrived and is taking her away when Shi-chung arrives outside the hospital. Fu-bo, seeing Shi-chung, says, what are you doing here? Do you know her? Shi-chung asks him, what are you doing here? Fu-bo says, because of me, Jin had an accident. Shi-chung says, you don't need to worry about my girlfriend. Now Fu-bo starts taking Su-yan away, but Su-yan refuses. Fu-bo also holds Su-yan's hand and says, if you don't want to go with him, I won't let you go anywhere. Seeing the argument between the two, Su-yan says, relax, I'll go with you. In the car, Shi-chung says to Su-yan, let's go get your stuff from home. Su-yan says, why? Shi-chung explains, you promised grandma you'd come to our house tonight. Su-yan says, give me some time to prepare. Shi-chung says, there's no need, just take your stuff and come home. Then changing his words, he says, come to my house. After that, Su-yan comes out with her belongings, and Shi-chung comes close to her, takes her belongings, and says in the room, you sleep on the sofa, I'll sleep on the bed. Then he says, I'm going to take a shower, don't touch anything. Now Su-yan sees a lot of remotes there, and starts turning them on, off. She turns off the bathroom light while Shi-chung is showering. He tells her to turn the light on. Now she goes to the bathroom to turn on the light, but gets embarrassed seeing Shi-chung in a towel without clothes and starts to leave. She almost bumps into the wall, but Shi-chung puts his hand in front of her face. The next day when Shi-chung wakes up, he sees Su-yan on the sofa, who is about to fall while turning sideways. Shi-chung catches her and keeps looking at her for a long time. The next morning, they are having breakfast with grandma when Fu-bo's message comes. He was calling her to meet. Now she goes to meet him in the evening, and he says, will you be my friend? Su-yan says, why not? Then Fu-bo gives her a gift, which contains makeup products. Su-yan takes it, saying thanks. He asks her to sign a contract with him. Use these products, and if you like them, we will talk business. In the next scene, Su-yan is waiting for a taxi when Shi-chung comes and takes her to click wedding photos. They come to a boutique. Now she asks Shi-chung to check different dresses, but he doesn't look good in any dress. After that, she selects a suit for him. When he comes out after changing, Su-yan gets lost looking at him and then says, you look handsome. Now he is getting his photo clicked, and Su-yan also gets ready and comes out. She looks so lovely that Shi-cheng can't take his eyes off her. Now they both get confused while getting their photos clicked. The photographer asks them to get closer. Then he asks them to hug and kiss each other, which shocks both of them. Now they are not kissing, so the photographer forcibly makes them kiss. Now this photo is placed in Shi-cheng's bedroom. Grandma says, "It feels great to see so much love between you two." She says to Su-yan, "You both live happily together. Now my only wish is to see my grandson's children playing in my lap." Shi-cheng starts smiling. As soon as Grandma leaves, Su-yan asks, "Can you explain to me? What was Grandma saying?" He says, "I can't explain. You do your work." And then he leaves. In the next scene, Grandma makes chicken soup for both of them and adds a medicine to it. Then she comes to Su-yan and says, "I made this chicken soup for both of you. When Shi-cheng comes back, you both drink it." Su-yan says, "When he comes, we will drink it." Now she smells the soup and likes it very much. She messages Shi-cheng, "If you don't come home soon, I'll eat all the food and you won't get anything." Now Shi-cheng reads the message, finishes his meeting, and leaves for home. Now Su-yan drinks all the soup and starts feeling hot. When Shi-cheng comes into the room, Su-yan hits him on the face and says, "You look so handsome." He says, "What are you doing?" Su-yan says, "I feel very hot." She is lying on the bed and sometimes on the floor. Shi-cheng asks her, "Did you take any medicine?" She says, "I drank the soup given by Grandma." Now she starts taking off her clothes, so Shi-cheng comes close and stops her. Then she starts taking off Shi-cheng's clothes too. In this tussle, both fall on the bed. In the next scene, Fu-bo has invited Su-yan to his birthday. Su-yan brings a gift for him, which he really likes. Now she gets a call from Shi-cheng, who asks her, "Where are you?" She tells him about Fu-bo's birthday. He says, "I'm coming to pick you up." But Su-yan says, "I'll come by myself," and then tells Fu-bo, "Sorry, I have an urgent matter, I need to go." When she comes home, Shi-cheng says, "What answer will you give if Grandma sees you with another guy?" Su-yan says, "I just went to meet a friend. There's no need to answer." He asks, "You two are just friends?" Su-yan says, "Yes." He says, "You should be careful with friends. Anyway, you don't know him much." Su-yan says, "Did you call me back just to say this?" Shi-cheng says, "I need a favor from you. You studied in England, right?" Su-yan says, "Yes." He says, "There's a meeting tomorrow and we need a translator." Now Su-yan gets worried because Hee-jin went to England, not her. She gives various reasons to refuse, but he doesn't listen to any. So Su-yan says, "Okay, I'll come tomorrow." Now Su-yan is telling everything to her friend and she gets an idea. The next day, she sits with a translator connected to her ear and manages to translate. Now she gets an idea and adds chili sauce to Shi-cheng's food, making it very spicy for him. But then her earphone falls and Su-yan doesn't understand German at all. Just then, Fu-bo arrives. He says, "I'll do the translation for you." Shi-cheng looks at Su-yan. Actually, Fu-bo wasn't called by Su-yan, but by the client. Now Shi-cheng starts feeling insecure seeing him. Then Fu-bo recalls many past things and thinks, "This isn't Hee-jin, it's Su-yan." Just then, Su-yan comes to him, and seeing her earphone, he asks, "You studied in Germany, so why don't you know this language?" She nervously starts to leave. Fu-bo says, "If I had been late today, you could have been exposed." Then he calls her by her real name. Su-yan asks, "Whose name is this?" He says, "Don't avoid me. I have heard you talking to your friend." Su-yan says, "You already knew my reality." He agrees and asks, "What is your relationship with Shi-cheng?" Just then, Shi-cheng comes there. Now Su-yan says, "It's a long story," but before she can explain, Shi-cheng starts taking her away. She says, "I'm discussing something important with Mr. Fu," but Shi-cheng says, "I won't repeat myself." Fu says, "You can't take her with this attitude. She's my friend, and I won't let anyone force her." Now Shi-cheng, holding her close, says, "But she's my fiancé and I'm taking her home." In the car, Su-yan says, "You are thinking wrong about us." He says, "If you didn't know English, you should have told me. Why do you always take so many risks? But you told Fu-bo first." Su-yan says, "I didn't tell him anything." She says, "We are just friends. Why are you thinking so much? As long as our contract is there, I'll remain your girlfriend." And then she gets out of the car saying, "I'll go by taxi." Now Shi-cheng calls out to her. He was also having stomach pain. Now while doing housework, she was telling everything to her friend when Shi-cheng comes in bad condition and falls on her. Su-yan takes him to the bed. He says, "My stomach hurts." So Su-yan asks, "Why?" Shi-cheng replies, "I don't eat spicy food." Su-yan says, "I'll get you some medicine." She goes to the kitchen to find medicine for him and then gives it to him. She takes good care of him. As she starts to leave, Shi-cheng holds her hand and says, "Just stay here with me and don't leave me." Su-yan says, "I'm right here and I will never leave you." Then watching him, she falls asleep. In the morning, when Shi-cheng wakes up, He feels very happy seeing Su-yan sleeping beside him. The light was disturbing Su-yan's sleep, so Shi-chung covers her eyes with his hand. In the next scene, Shi-chung gives her a box and says, "I have to go to a charity auction, and I want you to come with me." Su-yan says, "You said our relationship wouldn't be public, so how will you introduce me there?" Shi-chung says, "For Grandpa, you're my girlfriend, and for the rest of the world, you're my secretary. Keep this necklace safe and be ready early in the morning." Su-yan says, "Okay." After that, Su-yan is about to keep the necklace in the drawer when she sees the necklace given by her mother, which was to be sold for her treatment. Su-yan wasn't ready for this but kept it on her mother's insistence. In the next scene, Su-yan tells all this to her friend, who tells her to get a dress. Now they go to a designer shop to rent a dress. The employee working with Su-yan suggests renting a dress, but she refuses. Just then, Fubo arrives. He asks Su-yan to have lunch with him, but she refuses and leaves. After that, Fubo asks the employee, "What was Su-yan doing here?" He tells him everything. In the next scene, Su-yan gets a message from Fubo, asking to meet the next day. The next day, he gives Su-yan a dress, but she refuses to take it and tells him everything, saying, "Don't tell this to anyone." Fubo says, "Okay, but do let me know if you have any problems." Now her friend tells her, "I've arranged a dress for you." Su-yan feels happy. In the next scene, Shi-chung sees that dress and thinks, why did she buy such a bad dress? After some thought, he makes a call. Now he orders a dress for her and tells Su-yan, "Your parcel has arrived. Shall I check it?" But Su-yan comes out and takes it inside. When she sees the dress, she likes it very much. She then calls her friend and says, "You sent a very nice dress." Her friend says, "When you wear this dress to the party, everyone will be looking at you." Su-yan says, "I don't want anyone to look at me." Just then, their maid comes to take the necklace for charity. Su-yan says, "It's in the drawer of the dressing table." The maid mistakenly takes the necklace given by Su-yan's mother instead. After that, Shi-chung arrives, and Su-yan tries to cover the dress. He asks, "What's in this box?" Su-yan shows him the dress. "My friend sent this dress for the charity event." Shi-chung says, "Your friend's taste is very good." Then Su-yan says, "I need to go to the bathroom." Returning, she lies on the sofa and says, "Take someone else to the event, I can't go." Shi-chung asks why, and Su-yan says, "No reason, I just can't go." Later, Shi-chung asks his assistant, "What does it mean if a girl suddenly lies on the bed and seems unwell, as if she's sick?" The assistant says, "It means she's got her period." After that, Shi-chung goes to the room and asks her, "Do you need my help?" Su-yan asks, "What will you do?" He says, "When I was sick, you took care of me. Now that you're sick, I'll take care of you." Su-yan thinks, this crazy boy, who knows what he's going to do now. He comes with a bag and says, "I didn't know what would make you feel better, so I brought everything." He covers her with a blanket and gives her some hot patches, saying, "This will give you relief." Su-yan says, "I didn't know you knew so much about this." Shi-chung says, "I've never taken care of anyone, but I know how to do it." Then he gives her ginger-infused hot water to drink. The next day, Shi-chung is having breakfast alone, and grandmother asks about Su-yan. He tells her that she's sick. "I'll go to the charity event alone." After that, he goes to the room and calls Su-yan, who is asleep. Shi-chung says, "All right, you rest. I'll come back soon." After he leaves, Su-yan wakes up and thinks, since when has he become so nice? She remembers everything from the previous day and starts smiling. In the next scene, Shi-chung is alone at the party, and his assistant asks about Su-yan. Shi-chung says she won't come. On the other hand, Su-yan is on a video call with her friend when her friend gets a voice message from Shi-chung's assistant. "I don't like seeing Shi-chung alone at the event. Convince your friend to go to him. Her dress won't go to waste either." Hearing this, Su-yan says, "This dress was ordered by Shi-chung for me, but I thought you sent it." She shows the dress to her friend, who says, "I didn't send you this dress, so it must have been bought by Shi-chung." Su-yan understands everything. She says, "I have to go to the party." Then she gets ready nicely. At the event, there's going to be a dance. Shi-chung doesn't have a partner. Just then, Su-yan arrives and says, "I'm here." Shi-chung gets happy seeing her. He says, "You weren't feeling well, so why did you need to come?" Su-yan says, "Won't you dance with me?" Then they start dancing. Just then, a girl who is organizing the charity auction enters wearing Shi-chung's charity necklace. When Su-yan sees the necklace, she's shocked because it was her mother's necklace. She worriedly tells Shi-chung everything. He says, "No worries, we'll get that necklace." Just then, Liu Li comes wearing that necklace and says, "I'm the organizer of this event." Then the necklace goes up for auction, and Shi-chung bids on it. Shi-chung tells Su-yan, "That necklace is as precious to me as it is to you." And then he bids a high price to buy the necklace. Su-yan feels very bad. Now Shi-chung goes to get the necklace and says, "I bought this necklace because I need to give it to someone very precious." Then he says Hee-jin's name and calls her to the stage. She's shocked. When she comes to the stage, Shi-chung takes the necklace from Liu Li's neck and puts it on Su-yan, saying, "Thanks for coming into my life. and I hope to spend my entire life with you. In the next scene, Shi-cheng comes home and looks at the photo album. Then a past scene is shown, where Shi-cheng's childhood is shown. A girl gives him a necklace and says, "I'm giving you this from my mom's drawer because you're a prince." He says, "But I don't want to wear it." She says, "We can't just remain friends, and besides, you're a prince and I'm a princess." And she holds his hand. Now in the present, Shi-cheng says, "So you were the girl I played with a lot in childhood? Your real name is Hee-jin?" Then Shi-cheng says, "It's late. Let's sleep now." Soo-yan lies down on the bed and says, "Sleeping on the sofa has caused back pain and a sprained foot. Can you let me sleep on this bed for tonight?" Shi-cheng smiles and says, "Let's play a game. Whoever wins will sleep on the bed." They play a game, and Soo-yan wins. Now both are lying down, and Soo-yan asks, "Did you fall asleep?" Shi-cheng says, "No, I'm recalling some past memories." Soo-yan says, "Can you share them with me?" Then Soo-yan says, "Sometimes I remember the old days when I was very happy." Shi-cheng asks, "Aren't you happy now?" Soo-yan says, "Sometimes it feels like life is very complicated." Shi-cheng says, "Everyone's life is like that. It doesn't always go as we want." Soo-yan asks, "What do you want? You can tell me if you want." Shi-cheng says, "Not today. I'll tell you when the right time comes." Then Soo-yan, falling asleep, says, "I will always be with you and never let anything happen to you." Shi-cheng looks at her and sees she is asleep. Shi-cheng says, "Stay happy always." In the next scene, Grandma is standing outside Shi-cheng's room. Just then, Zi-cheng comes out and she says, "Give me a great-grandson soon," and smiles as she leaves. Shi-cheng also starts smiling. The next day, Liu Li has come to Shi-cheng's company. Soo-yan wakes up and, seeing the time, is shocked as she had a live stream and was late. Here, when Shi-cheng arrives at the office, he sees 2 new vases with flowers and asks his assistant, "Who brought these?" Just then, Liu Li comes and says, "I brought them." She tells him, "The company hired me abroad." He welcomes her. On the other hand, Grandma comes to Soo-yan and blood is coming out of her hand due to a vase. She gets worried. Soo-yan says, "It's okay, it's just a small cut." But Grandma says, "If Shi-cheng finds out, he will get worried." Grandma is bandaging Soo-yan and says, "Take this soup for Shi-cheng. I've heard he doesn't take care of himself." Hearing about the soup, Soo-yan says, "We don't need it." Grandma says, "Don't worry, it's plain soup, nothing else added." Soo-yan says, "Okay, I'll go after the live stream." Shi-cheng is watching Soo-yan's live stream. He messages her, asking about her injury. She says, "It's just a small cut." He says, "Is there someone to take care of you?" She thinks, "How does he know?" And then says, "We'll talk later." In the next scene, Soo-yan comes to the office with the soup. Fu-bo sees her and informs Liu Li about her arrival. Now Soo-yan enters the office, but no one is there. She says, "The food will get cold." She starts to place the box on the table. Just then, the table and the nearby file begin to fall, but Shi-cheng catches them. He asks her, "Why are you here?" Soo-yan says, "Grandma sent the soup." He asks, "It's not the same soup as that day, right?" She says, "No, it's plain soup." Shi-cheng says, "You also have some." She says, "I'm on a diet." Shi-cheng says, "Then I won't eat either." She says, "All right, I'll have some too, but I only brought 1 spoon." Shi-cheng says, "Nah, no problem, we can share." Then he holds Soo-yan's hand and feeds her the soup first, then starts drinking it himself. Soo-yan says, "This is my leftover," but Shi-cheng drinks from the same spoon. Just then, Liu Li arrives, feeling jealous, and calls out to Shi-cheng. Now Soo-yan is shocked to see her. Liu Li comes and says to Shi-cheng, "I need all the information about the company." Soo-yan asks Shi-cheng, "What is she doing here?" Before Shi-cheng can say anything, Liu Li says, "I'm Shi-cheng's childhood friend." Now Shi-cheng starts to explain, but Soo-yan says, "I don't want to eat anymore," and leaves. After Soo-yan goes home, Grandma tells her the news about Liu Li joining the company, which was all over social media. She says, "This Liu Li is a bad girl. She wants to get Shi-cheng. But Hee-jin, you are with Shi-cheng. You can't let this happen. You should go to the office and keep an eye on both of them." The next day, Soo-yan goes to the office, and Shi-cheng's assistant tells Soo-yan, "I'll help you with everything. You'll be Shi-cheng's special assistant." Now Shi-cheng is shocked to see Soo-yan, and his assistant tells him, "From today, she'll be your special assistant." Hearing this, Liu Li says, "You are Shi-cheng's special assistant? That's very interesting." Soo-yan says, "If you can work in this company, why can't I? And besides, Shi-cheng has always helped me a lot. He even bought my favorite necklace." Liu Li says, "That was just a small necklace. I haven't even thanked Shi-cheng for it." Soo-yan steps forward and says to Shi-cheng, "We did all that for the orphaned children, not for you." Liu Li feels jealous and leaves. Now Soo-yan says to Shi-cheng, "From today, I'll stay with you all the time." Then Soo-yan sits at her desk and says, "I'll help you with everything." Now they are reading a book, and Shi-cheng says, "I have to meet a client. Will you come?" Soo-yan says, "Your car is at the workshop, and we can't take a taxi. So we have only one option, which is the bus." Hearing the word bus, Shi Chung is shocked. She asks, "Have you ever been on a bus?" He lies and says, "Yes." After that, they are waiting for the bus outside. When the bus arrives, both get on. Shi Chung stands covering Su-yan. When there's a jolt, Su-yan starts to fall, and Shi Chung catches her. After they get off at the stop, Shi Chung's tie is messed up, so Su-yan comes close to fix his tie. Shi Chung keeps looking at her. Now a speeding car comes, and there's water on the road. The water splashes on Shi Chung's clothes, ruining his outfit. They then go to the mall to buy a dress. Su-yan says, "This dress looks better." Shi Chung says, "The cost will be deducted from your salary." Now the meeting scene is shown. They are secretly looking at each other. At the end of the meeting, Shi Chung gets a call from his assistant. He asks the assistant to pick him up, but the assistant refuses. Now they are walking together. Su-yan says, "You are very strange. Sometimes you seem grumpy, and sometimes very nice. But your company's employees are quite afraid of you." Shi Chung says, "I'm the boss there. I can't be nice to everyone. Besides, sometimes guys give value to a special girl." Su-yan asks, "Who is she?" Shi Chung says, "What do you think?" Just then, a lady selling flowers asks them to buy flowers. Shi Chung buys all the flowers and gives them to Su-yan. The next day, Su-yan makes something for Shi Chung and says, "I learned this recipe online. You should try it too." He checks and says, "It tastes good." Just then, Liu Li arrives and offers Su-yan a job in her department. Shi Chung refuses, but Su-yan thinks, by staying close to her, I can find out her plan. So she agrees and goes with Liu Li. In the department, Liu Li introduces Su-yan and gives her a lot of work, asking her to design something as well. Now Su-yan gets to work. Shi Chung is worried about her, so he takes lunch to Su-yan, but Liu Li takes the food and says, "Do you still remember my favorite sandwich?" Shi Chung doesn't say anything, but Su-yan leaves angrily. Su-yan takes the design to Liu Li. She asks about the files, and Su-yan says, "I submitted them." Then Liu Li looks at the design and likes it. She sits beside Su-yan to discuss the design. Liu Li gets a call, mentions Shi Chung's name, and goes outside to talk. Shi Chung asks about Su-yan, and Liu Li lies, saying she's very careless. Shi Chung says she doesn't have much experience, but she works very well. After that, Su-yan shows her the work. It's completed. Liu Li says, "It's quite late. You can go home now." Now Su-yan gets a message from Shi Chung. "I'm waiting for you in the parking lot." She smiles, and then they go home together. The next day in the meeting, Liu Li presents Su-yan's design as her own, which makes Su-yan very angry. After the meeting, Su-yan talks to Liu Li. "Why did you do that?" Liu Li says, "The design wasn't just based on your ideas. I put in a lot of effort too." Su-yan says, "The person who did the work should get the credit." That's fair. Just then, seeing Shi Chung approach, Liu Li changes the topic and starts making Su-yan angry. Shi Chung comes and tells them to talk in the department. He leaves without listening to Su-yan. After that, Liu Li says, "It doesn't matter who made the design." Su-yan takes leave and goes away. Now Fubo sees her leaving and follows her, and Shi Chung's assistant sees him leave too. After that, Su-yan sits outside. She gets a call from her sister, who shows her a picture of their mom and tells her to work properly, then cuts the call. Now Fubo comes looking for her. He says, "If you're having trouble, why don't you leave everything?" Then Fubo talks about taking her to a good place, which is a games mall. On the other hand, Liu Li comes to Shi Chung, just as his assistant tells him, He Jin went with Fubo. He says, "Okay." Liu Li asks, "Are you going somewhere?" Shi Chung says, "If you have any work-related matters, talk about them." Su-yan feels very happy at that place. Here, Shi Chung is very worried about Su-yan. He calls her, but her phone is at the counter, so she doesn't know. After gaming, the counter lady gives them their phones, and Fubo says, "You'll have to have dinner with me." Just then, both of them get calls from Shi Chung. Now Su-yan calls Shi Chung back. In the office, Liu Li is with Shi Chung. She suggests going somewhere for dinner, but Shi Chung refuses. Just then, he gets a call from Su-yan. He asks, "Why didn't you pick up my call?" Su-yan says, "I was busy, so I didn't hear it." He says, "I'm coming to pick you up." But Su-yan tells him, "I have my own private life, you do your work," and cuts the call. Now Shi Chung agrees to dinner with Liu Li, making her happy. She goes to her room and tells Fubo, "Take Su-yan to dinner and tell her to go to the same restaurant where I'm going with Shi Chung." Su-yan is ordering at the restaurant when Shi Chung arrives with Liu Li. Both are shocked to see each other. Now they all sit at a table and start eating. Su-yan talks nicely to Fubo to make Shi Chung jealous, so Shi Chung also starts talking nicely to Liu Li. Then Su-yan leaves angrily, and Shi Chung follows her. Outside, he catches Su-yan and stops her. She tells him to let go of her hand, but he doesn't, so she bites his hand. She says, "Go to your friend. Why are you coming to me now?" He says, "You were with Fubo too." She says, "He's just my friend." Shi-chung says, "Liu Li is also just my friend." Su-yan starts to leave, and Shi-chung calls out to her. She comes back and kicks him hard on the leg before leaving. On the other hand, Fubo asks Liu Li, "Why did you do this?" She says, "For both of us. You also like that girl." She says, "I will get Shi-chung, no matter what." At home, Su-yan locks herself in the room. Shi-chung knocks on the door a lot, but she doesn't open it. He says, "Give me my night dress." She throws it at his face. Grandma sees all this and gets angry at Shi-chung. He says, "You are misunderstanding." Grandma leaves, saying, "You deserve this." The next day, Shi-chung says in the meeting, "After seeing this design, I understand that the idea and design were Hee-jin's, but Liu Li presented it as her own." Now Liu Li comes to Shi-chung with her resignation and a bottle of medicine in her pocket. She gives him her resignation and says, "You pointed out my mistake in the meeting, so I can't lead the team." Shi-chung says, "You shouldn't hide your team's hard work." She says, "I realize that, so please accept my resignation." Just then, the assistant takes a picture of them and sends it to Su-yan, asking her to come to the office. Here, Shi-chung accepts her resignation. She pretends to fall. Shi-chung catches her, and she deliberately drops the medicine. Shi-chung asks her about the medicine, and she says, "I'm in depression, so the doctor recommended this medicine," and then pretends to faint. Just then, the assistant sees this and thinks, "What will Hee-jin think if she comes?" Just then, she arrives, and the assistant doesn't let her in, but she forces her way to the door. Seeing the scene inside, she gets very angry. She takes lipstick from the assistant and puts it on before going inside. She goes to Shi-chung and kisses him on the lips. Liu Li feels jealous and leaves. After kissing, Su-yan goes outside. Shi-chung follows her and asks, "Why did you kiss?" She says, "I wanted to show her to stay in her limits and Grandma told me to do it." He starts smiling and says, "I didn't think you would follow Grandma's every word, but what you did in the office wasn't right." Su-yan says, "What you and Liu Li were doing was right? Why were you sticking to her?" Shi-chung says, "Forget all this. Tell me, are you going to behave like this in the future too?" She angrily says, "So I'm still the one at fault?" Shi-chung says, "The fault was yours first. You joined her team and argued with her in the company." Now, Su-yan leaves angrily. Now she is sitting in the room, tearing pages. As soon as Shi-chung comes, Su-yan throws the pieces of pages at him and leaves. After that, Su-yan is having dinner with Grandma. Shi-chung comes there, and Su-yan leaves. The next day, Su-yan is working in the office. Shi-chung comes and watches her from behind. Liu Li sees him standing there and feels very jealous. The next day, Liu Li talks about the supermoon in the meeting and says, "The theme came from my personal experience. I promised my friend that we would watch the moon together, but it wasn't possible." After that, Liu Li comes to his office and gives all the project documents. She asks Shi-chung, "Will you be at the company on the night of the supermoon? I need to discuss something." But Shi-chung refuses. When Su-yan is leaving the office, she gets a call from her friend asking for help. Su-yan sends her location and says, "I'll come to you." Now Su-yan arrives at the place and starts calling her friend. Suddenly, the lights turn on. Just then, Shi-chung also arrives, and fireworks start. He comes to Su-yan and says, "I want to apologize. Sorry, I haven't paid attention to you for the past few days. I should have given you time. Will you forgive me?" And gives her a bouquet of flowers. Su-yan says, "I'm very angry with you. Do you think I'll forgive you just because of these lights and flowers?" "No, I won't." Shi-chung says, "There's more." He takes her to the balloons. "Cut and release these balloons, it will cool your anger." He gives her a small pair of scissors. Now Su-yan starts cutting the balloons. Su-yan says, "You are very bad. I will never forgive you." Shi-chung hugs her. Now they are sitting together. Shi-chung gives her a balloon and says, "Write a wish on it. I've heard that releasing balloons near the moon makes wishes come true." Su-yan says, "I'll write that someone disappears from my life." Shi-chung looks at her angrily. She says, "I'm joking." Shi-chung says, "Don't joke like that again." Now Su-yan starts writing on the balloon with a pen. The balloon flies away with the wind. She gets scared. Shi-chung hugs her. Then they start kissing, and the tent falls on them. Su-yan comes out of the tent. Shi-chung asks, "Are you hurt?" Su-yan says, "No." Then Su-yan says, "We won't see the supermoon today. We'll have to wait." Shi-chung says, "Yes, 18 years wait. We'll see the supermoon together after 18 years. Su-yan starts smiling. Shi-chung hugs her. The next morning, both are feeling nervous around each other. Su-yan comes out of the room. Grandma asks, "Is your relationship with Shi-chung okay?" Su-yan says, "Yes, we had a little fight, but now everything is fine." Grandma says, "I know you'll make everything right with him." Now Grandma says, "We have to go to a relative's place. You both stay home. We'll be back soon. I want your child to come into this world soon." Su-yan starts smiling. Shi-chung comes and says, I'll drop you off. But Grandma leaves, putting Soo-yeon's hand in Shi-chung's hand. Now Shi-chung says, if you're hungry, I'll make something for you. Soo-yeon says, I'll cook today. Today's treat is on me. Now Soo-yeon cuts and cooks vegetables, but they get overcooked. So Soo-yeon pours the pre-ordered soup into a bowl and brings it out. She says, this is my family's secret recipe. Shi-chung tastes it and likes it. Soo-yeon says, I told you, you'd like it. Shi-chung says, yes, this restaurant's recipe is good. Now Soo-yeon, feeling embarrassed, asks, so you knew? Shi-chung says, when you received the food, I heard the bell and the door opening. Shi-chung says, you didn't need to do this. I can cook. Now Soo-yeon eats, but it gets stuck in her throat. Shi-chung gives her water and rubs her back. Soo-yeon says, Shi-chung, please don't fight with me anymore. I'm tired of our fights. When you didn't support me, I felt very lonely. Now Shi-chung apologizes to her. Soo-yeon says, it was my fault too. I shouldn't have made an enemy of Liu Li, but I won't give up. One day I'll impress everyone. Shi-chung says, okay, for now, eat. Then Shi-chung starts feeding Soo-yeon himself. Soo-yeon is working, and Shi-chung messages her, if you want to drink soup, come upstairs. Now Soo-yeon is going to the office when Liu Li comes in her way. She says, don't you want to know what my relationship with Shi-chung was? Soo-yeon says, no. Liu Li says, he used to love me. Doesn't that bother you? Just then, a flashback scene shows both of them together. In the present, Liu Li says, I'm in Shi-chung's heart. You can't take my place. Soo-yeon says, only he knows whom he loves. Shi-chung will tell me everything you don't need to. Shi-chung is waiting for her in the office. He starts calling her, are you coming here? Soo-yeon looks sad, and Shi-chung says, did Liu Li say something to you? I'll call her here. But Soo-yeon stops him and says, I trust you. If Liu Li is your ex-girlfriend, end the relationship with her and then come to me. Shi-chung says, she's not my ex-girlfriend, trust me. Soo-yeon says, if you say so, I'll believe you, but take some time and fix whatever it is with her. Shi-chung says, don't worry, I'll handle everything. After that, Shi-chung calls Liu Li and asks to meet. The next day, Soo-yeon falls asleep while working in the office. Liu Li comes and gives her the task of material checking. Now Soo-yeon reaches the top and messages Shi-chung, I'm going out for work. Shi-chung says, take care, and I'll pick you up at night. Afterward, Shi-chung gets a message from Liu Li, and she sends him the location. After finishing her work, Soo-yeon thinks, I'll book a taxi. On the other hand, Liu Li meets Shi-chung. She says, you used to like me. Shi-chung says, no. Liu Li says, that's not possible. You love me. Shi-chung says, that's not true. Now, while going further in the taxi, Soo-yeon realizes this isn't the taxi she hired. Soo-yeon thinks it's her mistake and asks the driver to drop her home. Meanwhile, Shi-chung says to Liu Li, I called you today to clear your misunderstanding, but Liu Li doesn't listen to him. She says, I spent time abroad hoping I could come to you. You're lying that you don't like me. After a while, Soo-yeon realizes that this man is fake, and he is not taking her the right way. She asks him to stop the car. He says, when the time is up, I'll send you back. But Soo-yeon stops the car, gets out, and calls her friend to come there. The man chases her, so Soo-yeon kicks him in the leg and runs away. Now the assistant comes to Shi-chung and tells him that Soo-yeon is in trouble. He immediately rushes out in his car. Shi-chung calls her, and Soo-yeon, crying, asks him to come quickly. Now Soo-yeon hides somewhere. The man is asking her to come out, and then he finds her. But before he can do anything, Shi-chung arrives and hugs Soo-yeon, saying, I told you I would come. Soo-yeon starts crying. Now Shi-chung carries her into a room and lays her on the bed. Soo-yeon says, I'll sleep on the sofa, but Shi-chung refuses. Soo-yeon says, can you get me the medical kit? Shi-chung asks, what's wrong? Are you in a lot of pain? Let's call a doctor. Soo-yeon says, it's not for me, it's for you. The box fell on you. Shi-chung says, I'm fine. But Soo-yeon insists he gets it. Now Shi-chung shifts his shirt to the side, and Soo-yeon, seeing the injury, says, it's quite bad. Soo-yeon applies ointment. At night, Soo-yeon calls him, aren't you asleep? Shi-chung says, no, why aren't you sleeping? Soo-yeon says, I can't sleep. Thinking about what happened today scares me. Now Shi-chung sits on the bed next to her and says, I'm here with you. Don't be scared. Nothing will happen. Now Soo-yeon rests her head on his arm and falls asleep. The next day, when Soo-yeon wakes up, Shi-chung is beside her. He asks, did you sleep well? Soo-yeon says, yes. Now Soo-yeon, seeing her head on his arm, says, I slept on this all night. It must be hurting now. But Shi-chung says, no, I'm a man. Men don't feel pain. You rest. I'll make breakfast for you. Soo-yeon thinks, I wish every day were like this. Just then, Soo-yeon gets a call from her dad. He invites Soo-yeon and Shi-chung to his house. In the next scene, they go to meet Hee-jin's dad. Dad pretends to care for her. After that, Dad says, why don't we take a group photo? But Soo-yeon refuses. Shi-chung says, Hee-jin said she doesn't want to take photos, so don't insist. Now Dad says, okay, if she doesn't want to, we won't. Dad takes Hee-jin aside to talk privately and asks her for money. Soo-yeon says, I don't have any money. Dad says, ask Shi-chung, he has a lot of money. I need money urgently. You need to get Shi-chung to sign these papers. But Soo-yeon says, I have no connection with your family. Dad says, I recognize you. You're not Hee-jin, you're Soo-yeon. Tell me, does Shi-chung know that you're using Hee-jin's name? Soo-yeon says, what do you want? Dad says, I don't care what you two are doing. I just need a little help. Soo-yeon says, if you go and tell Shi-chung everything, you won't get anything. Dad says, in that case, I'll take you both down with me. Just then, Shi-chung calls Hee-jin and arrives there. Dad asks Soo-yeon to sign the papers. Now Shi-chung takes Soo-yeon away. After that, they come to the seaside. Soo-yeon comes out and asks, what's the matter? Shi-chung says, you seemed upset, so I brought you for some fresh air. Soo-yeon asks, how did you know? Shi-chung says, it was written on your face. You were sad. Now Soo-yeon says, I want our life to always be like this. Soo-yeon says, no matter what happens in the future, we need to give each other a chance to explain and trust each other. We can't leave each other. Shi-chung asks, are you still thinking about Liu Li? Soo-yeon says, no, Shi-chung, I trust you. He says, I'm glad. I'll never break your trust. Then they spend a lot of time together. In the next scene, Soo-yeon is working in the office when she remembers today is Shi-chung's birthday. She orders a cake and then messages Shi-chung, the weather isn't good today, so come home early. I'm leaving too. Now she does a lot of grocery shopping and heads home. She sees Liu Li with Fubo or someone else, acting very strange and crazy. Liu Li sees Soo-yeon and comes to her saying, no matter how much time you spend with him, he won't stay with you. She also drops Soo-yeon's shopping bag and smiles crazily. In the next scene, Soo-yeon is at home, thinking about Liu Li's words, then says, she must be talking nonsense. Today is Shi-chung's birthday. Now she starts preparing. She opens the cake and sets it up, then opens a drawer to get something and finds a box with some photos. Just then, Shi-chung arrives, calling her, and she drops the box. Shi-chung also sees the photos, and a flashback scene shows two children playing. In the present, Soo-yeon starts putting things back in the box. Shi-chung asks, why did you take out this box? Soo-yeon says, I was looking for a lighter and accidentally opened this box. Shi-chung tells her to leave. Then he goes to ruin the cake, but Soo-yeon stops him saying, if something is wrong, I can help you. But Shi-chung says, I don't need your help. Soo-yeon asks, is the other child in these photos your brother? Shi-chung says, mind your own business and put this box back. Soo-yeon says, I've seen the photos now, so please talk to me. Shi-chung says, I've kept this in my heart for 20 years. I don't want anyone to know. You can't help me. Soo-yeon comes close and holds his arm. Shi-chung says, you want to know about him? He was my older brother, everyone's favorite and the smartest, but he had an accident because of me. He was only 7 years old. It was my fault. He was in the hospital for 7 days because of me. Then our family fell apart because of me. Mom went into depression, so Dad took them away. I destroyed my entire family. After that, Shi-chung drops the cake and says, now you know everything, and leaves crying. Soo-yeon also cries a lot. Shi-chung locks himself in his room. Just then, Grandma arrives, and Soo-yeon leaves the house crying. Grandma tries to stop her, but Soo-yeon doesn't stop. Grandma comes inside and sees everything, getting worried, while Shi-chung sits in his room, remembering his childhood memories. Now, a past scene shows Shi-chung playing on the road, and his brother warns him. Just then, a car comes speeding, and his brother tells Shi-chung to move back. While saving him, Shi-chung's brother gets hit by the car. After that, Shi-chung cries and tells his brother to get up. It's all my fault. Forgive me, brother. In the present, Soo-yeon is walking on the road. Fubo sees her and calls out, but Soo-yeon doesn't hear him. Now, Fubo is looking for her. On the other hand, Soo-yeon's friend and assistant are also looking for her. Soo-yeon sits by the side of the road and gets a call from her mom. She asks about her, and Soo-yeon, crying, says, I'm fine, Mom, and then starts telling her about her job, saying, take care of yourself and come back healthy. Soo-yeon says, I miss you a lot. Just then, the call gets cut, and Soo-yeon starts crying again. It starts raining. Fubo can't find Soo-yeon, so he calls Shi-chung and says, why did you let Hee-jin go out? There's a high alert due to the rain. Now Shi-chung goes out to find her, thinking about what she said. In the next scene, Soo-yeon is sitting in the rain, and Shi-chung comes there with an umbrella. Soo-yeon looks at him. Then they stand side by side. Soo-yeon feels cold, so Shi-chung gives her his coat and apologizes. I shouldn't have been so angry. Soo-yeon says, it was my fault too. I shouldn't have asked about your past. Shi-chung says, you were right. I've been holding everything inside for 20 years. I don't know how I was living before I met you. The medicine I take has saved me. I always think my brother isn't here because of me. Now Soo-yeon holds his face and says, it wasn't your fault. It was just an accident. Shi-chung says, my brother isn't at home, only I am left. Suyan says, Grandma is there, and so am I. Shichang says, Hee-jin, never leave me. Suyan says, it won't be that easy. Shichang says, I don't care about anyone, Hee-jin. I like you a lot. You can't even imagine, and maybe I can't either. You are so important to me. Now Suyan gives him his coat and starts to leave, but Shichang follows her and gives her the umbrella. Suyan calls him and runs to him, hugging him. Then they start kissing. In the next scene, some sweet and romantic moments between Shichang and Suyan are shown. After spending a good time together, they come home. Suyan stops outside the house and asks Shichang, will Grandma be angry? Will she tell me to go to my house? Shichang says, that day when you were leaving the house, you didn't care about Grandma's anger. Then he holds Suyan's hand and says, as long as you are with me, I'll handle everything. I won't let anything happen to you. Then they both go to Grandma. Grandma is sitting angrily. Now Shichang apologizes to her. Suyan also sits next to Grandma and says, Grandma, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have left Shichang in anger. Shichang says, no, it's my fault. I shouldn't have been so angry with you. Grandma says, this time I'll forgive both of you. But if it happens again, I'll have a heart attack. And your punishment is that you both will stay locked in the room. Now Shichang is working in the study and Suyan says, are all presidents this busy? Shichang says, no, I also have to do the work of a lazy girl so that she doesn't feel burdened. Suyan says, who is that? Shichang says, you guess. Then he says, you ruined my birthday. Next time, I want a better cake. Suyan says, you dropped that cake, but no problem. I'll make a good and big cake for you on your next birthday. Shichang says, okay, I'll wait for it. The next day, in the meeting, there's a vote, and Suyan is made the head of the department, which makes Liuli very angry. After that, Liuli goes to Shichang and says, Hee-jin defeated me in the design. Now I can't stay in this department. Shichang says, last time when there was a fight because of you, I told her this. Liuli says, I came here for you, but you are pushing me away. She holds Shichang's hand, but Shichang removes her hand and says, we can't be together. Liuli asks, why? Shichang says, at that time you made your decision and took money from Grandma. I didn't think you could stoop so low. I was your friend before, but the day you asked for money, our friendship ended. Today, whatever you are enduring is the result of your decision. In the next scene, Suyan comes to the office and tells Shichang, I'm going home, you finish your work and come home early. Shichang says, if you're taking a taxi, send me the taxi number. Suyan says, okay. Then Suyan starts to leave, and Shichang hugs her from behind. Shichang says, stay with me. Suyan says, you are the president of this company, you have a lot of work, so you work. I'll meet you at home. Shichang kisses her on the cheek and says, okay. Suyan stops him and starts to leave. Then she comes back to Shichang near the door, kisses him, and quickly leaves. Shichang starts smiling. Now, coming out of the company, Suyan feels sad thinking about Hee-jin. She calls her friend and asks to meet. Her friend takes her to a bar where Fubo is also watching them. He tells the waiter, give those girls a high-class wine, and I'll pay. Now Suyan is sad and keeps drinking. Now the waiter gives Suyan's friend a message, someone is calling you outside. And from behind, Fubo hugs Suyan and takes a picture. Suyan is drunk, so she doesn't understand anything. Then Fubo lays her down and leaves. Shichang is working in the office when the assistant gets a call. Suyan is drunk, so Shichang goes to the bar. Now Shichang picks up Suyan and takes her home. At home, Shichang lifts Suyan. Shichang says, wine is strong, you shouldn't have drunk so much. Suyan asks him, do you like me? Shichang says, I've already told you. Suyan says, tell me again. Then Shichang says, first you say, you like me. Suyan says, Shichang, I have a secret. Just then the maid calls Shichang. So Shichang says to Suyan, we'll talk about the rest inside. Then Shichang carries Suyan inside. Now Shichang cooks for Suyan. Just then Suyan comes there. Shichang asks her, what are you wearing and where are your shoes? Suyan says, I don't know, I couldn't find my night dress, so I wore your shirt. People say the most important thing in dating is to wear your boyfriend's shirt. Shichang sits her on the counter and says, I've given you a lot of trouble. Suyan says, do you regret it, being with me? Shichang says, listen to me carefully. Hee-jin, I like you. I'll like you for my whole life. After that, they start kissing. Suyan says, Shichang, I like you a lot. Then Shichang starts kissing Suyan again. Now, Grandma comes there and, seeing them like this, happily leaves. After that, Shichang feeds Suyan, and many sweet scenes are shown. The next day, Suyan is sleeping when she gets a call from her friend. She says, someone has made your and Fubo's photos viral in the media, and the entire cosmetics industry is scandalized. Now Suyan quickly tells her to come out. I'll pick you up. Fubo is following them. Suyan gets out of the car, and the media starts asking her questions. Now Fubo starts taking Suyan away. The assistant gets the news. Fuboya has taken Heijin, so Shichang leaves the meeting and goes after them. Now Fuboya takes Suyan to a restaurant. She starts calling Shichang, but Fubo stops her and says, "I need to talk to you about something important." Suyan says, "About these photos, I trust you, and we didn't even meet yesterday, so how could anyone take our photos? Someone wants to end my relationship with Shichang and break our friendship. I'll talk to Shichang right now." Fubo angrily says, "I did all this. I took our photos at the bar yesterday and made them viral." Suyan asks, "Why?" Fubo says, "For Liu Li, I love her a lot." Now a flashback scene shows Fubo being beaten up by some people. Then Liu Li passes by. She puts him in an ambulance and takes him to the hospital. He says, "Liu Li helped me a lot abroad, and I fell in love with her. Even though I know she loves Shichang, I want her happiness. For her, I don't mind being away from her, and I'll do anything for her. I thought by doing this, I could end your relationship with Shichang." Suyan says, "You are not the Fubo who was my friend." He says, "I deliberately got close to you to build a relationship with Shichang's girlfriend." Suyan says, "So it was all your planning?" Suyan says, "Do you realize how much trouble your selfishness has caused us?" Fuboya says, "I don't care about anyone. Only Liu Li should be happy." He says, "If you leave Shichang, I'll tell everyone that it was my plan." So Suyan pours water on Fubo and says, "I thought you were my friend, but I didn't know you were like this. After today, never talk to me again." Then Suyan starts to leave, but Fuboya goes after her and tries to stop her, saying, "Remember, I know your secret." Just then, Shichang arrives and starts beating Fubo. Suyan stops him and Shichang says to Fubo, "Don't come near Heijin again." Suyan tells Shichang to relax. He says, "I am relaxed. It's just that today is a bit strange." Suyan says, "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have trusted others, and I shouldn't have drunk so much at the bar yesterday." Now Shichang holds her hand and says, "I don't care about what's happening. What matters is that people will try to hurt you now, but I'll never let you get hurt. I'll even give my life to protect you." Suyan says, "Shichang, I need to tell you something." Just then, Shichang gets a call. He says, "Sit in the car for 2 minutes, I'll be right back." Now Shichang answers the assistant's call. The assistant says, "Fubo wants to give a statement to the news channels." Shichang says, "I don't know why he's so persistent." The assistant says, "Fubo and Liu Li studied at the same university abroad, and we have evidence." Now Shichang tells him to research the matter further. Then Shichang goes back to Suyan. Suyan says, "Is everything okay?" Shichang says, "Even if it's not, I'll make it okay. There's a press conference tonight where I'll clear everything." Now Shichang takes Suyan to the company, where many photographers are present. Shichang takes Suyan inside and then they hold a live press conference. Shichang says, "The scandal about my girlfriend is fake. Fubo and she are just friends, while our relationship is very strong." Now Fubo arrives and says, "Who said my relationship with Heijin is fake? I'll tell you, Miss Heijin likes me a lot." Now Suyan starts to say something, but Shichang tells her to stay quiet and says to Fubo, "You must have something to say." He says, "This girl is fake." Now Shichang shows all the media the pictures and says, "This man took pictures with my girlfriend while she was drunk," and shows many pictures. Shichang says, "You and Liu Li have crossed your limits. Be ready to face the consequences of what you've done." Now Fubo is about to reveal Suyan's truth, but Liu Li comes and tells him to stay quiet and takes all the blame herself. After that, an envelope falls from Liu Li's hand, which the assistant picks up. While leaving, Liu Li is about to have an accident. Fubo saves her but gets hit by the car himself, getting seriously injured. In the next scene, Suyan hugs Shichang and says, "I don't know why Fubo did all this," and Shichang consoles her. The next day, Suyan goes to her friend and asks why she called her suddenly. Her friend says, "The assistant found out your identity. He got your information file yesterday." Now the assistant tells Suyan to explain everything. So Suyan tells him everything and says, "When Heijin brings mom back, I'll tell Shichang everything." The assistant agrees. In the next scene, Liu Li apologizes to Suyan, saying, "I'm taking Fubo away from here. Say goodbye to Shichang for me." After that, Suyan and Shichang are having dinner. Suyan looks sad. So Shichang asks her, "What's the matter?" Suyan says, "Nothing." Shichang is in the study, then asks Suyan to bring something. Suyan brings something else. Shichang asks, "What's the matter? Why are you so stressed? Are you sad because of Fubo?" Suyan says, "Fubo and Liu Li made many mistakes, but they aren't bad people, so I'll consider them my friends." "But, Shichang, if I made a mistake, would you forgive me?" Shichang kisses her and says, "That won't happen. Whatever you do, I'll always be with you." Suyan hugs him and says, "You are very good." Shichang says, "I have a project that I need your help with." Then he starts explaining all the details to Suyan. The next day they go shopping. where Suyan takes photos of the products. The sales girl starts following them. They run away from there. Later, Shichang tells Suyan to sit there and leaves. Suyan is setting up glasses when a child comes with a flower and says, "For the sweetest girl in the world." Suyan asks him, "Who told you to say that?" He takes Shichang's name. Suyan gets happy. After that, their dinner scene is shown. Suyan is wearing a very nice dress, and Shichang says, "You look very good." Then Shichang holds her hand and asks her to promise, because whatever happens in the future, we won't be apart from each other. Then Shichang gives her a gift, which is a culture hairpin. He says, "Ja Hijin, I love you." Suyan starts smiling. Shichang puts the hairpin in her hair. Then their kissing scene is shown. The next day, Suyan goes to the office, and Hijin arrives outside the office. Suyan is shocked to see her because her face has changed due to surgery. Hijin starts asking Suyan for money and tells her to quickly get money from Shichang. Suyan says, "You are crossing the limit." Hijin says, "If you don't bring the money, you'll never see mom again." After that, Suyan calls her friend to meet. Her friend comes with the assistant, and Suyan tells them everything. The assistant says, "I'll give money to bring your mom back." But Suyan says, "Don't give money because if you give money, they'll keep asking for it. I need help from both of you." Hijin said mom is abroad, but I don't think so. "Can you both find out?" "If we find mom, we'll get rid of Hijin," the assistant says. "I'll find out." "What have you thought about telling the boss?" Suyan says, "I haven't thought about it yet." In the next scene, Shichang tells Suyan about an exhibition. When she goes there, she sees the "Order Closed" sign. Just then, Shichang arrives and takes her inside. He shows her the pictures of her favorite artist. Suyan, happy, says, "This is a happy piece for me." Shichang smiles. Then her favorite artist also meets them. Suyan can't believe it. They say, "Shichang told me you are my fan and requested this private exhibition. People do anything for love." Suyan smiles. Then they give Suyan a gift, which is a doll. They say, "Shichang told me your doll was torn, so I made this doll for you." After they leave, Suyan thanks Shichang. Suyan says, "When did you arrange all this?" Shichang says, "Did you like it?" Suyan says, "I've never received a better surprise." Shichang, I love you. I always want to be with you. On the other side, Hijin's cards get blocked, and no friend is letting her stay at their house. Meanwhile, Shichang hugs Suyan. After that, they walk with an umbrella. Suyan says, "Today feels like a dream to me." Then in front of the house, Suyan says, "I have something to tell you." Shichang says, "Yes, tell me." But just then, the maid arrives. She says to Suyan, "A relative has come to meet you." They go inside and see Hijin sitting and talking to Grandma. She tells Shichang, "I'm Hijin's cousin." Grandma says, "When we came home, she was waiting outside." She introduces her as Hijin's cousin, and with fake acting says to Grandma, "I need money for my mom's treatment." Hearing her sad story, Grandma gets emotional and tells her to stay at their house. Suyan tells Grandma, Hijin can't stay here. Hijin says, "Stop acting like you love him and take this as a deal, or it won't be good for you." Suyan says, "Next time, instead of a face transplant, get a heart transplant too, because this heart is full of greed." Now Shichang comes and asks Suyan to go to a movie. Hijin says, "Good idea. You both spend time together. I'll go meet my mom." Suyan looks at Hijin and says to Shichang, "I can't go with you. I have to go see mom with my cousin." Shichang says, "I'll drop you both." Hijin says, "You both go to the movie. I'll go meet mom alone." Suyan says, "We'll both go," and leaves. Hijin says to Shichang, "I know my sister. She's a bit secretive. If she hasn't told you something, she won't tell." Shichang says, "She's my girlfriend, so I know her." But Hijin leaves, saying, "You don't know anything about her." Outside, Suyan says to Hijin, "What do you want to do? I know you're not going to see mom. You just want to get your work done through Shichang." Hijin says, "Your love drama irritates me and I need some dresses." Suyan says, "I don't have money." Hijin says, "I'll go and tell Shichang that I'm the real Hijin. If he kicks us out, I'll move abroad with mom." Suyan holds her and says, "All right, take my card." In the next scene, Shichang sees that Hijin and her cousin have done a lot of shopping. He asks, "Weren't you both going to the hospital?" Hijin says, "After the hospital, Hijin took me shopping." Now she asks Suyan to return an important item. Suyan asks, "What item?" Hijin says, "The necklace that belonged to my mom. You liked it, so you kept it. Now I'm in some trouble, so please return it to me." Now Shichang asks Suyan, "You told me this necklace belonged to your mom." Hijin says, "She must be joking." Shichang asks Suyan, "What's going on?" Hijin says, "Will you bring me that necklace?" Suyan says, "Yes, that necklace belongs to Suyan's mom." Now she goes to the room and looks at the necklace. Just then, Shichang arrives, and Suyan apologizes. "I troubled you." Shichang says, "You've been troubled lately. Why?" "It's because of your cousin." Suyan doesn't tell him anything. Shichang asks her, "Tell me the truth. Whose necklace is this?" She says, it's Soo-yeon's mom's. Shi-chang says, if it's not important, why were you so worried at the auction? She says, it's very important. Can you leave me alone for a while? Shi-chang says, okay. Then he tells Soo-yeon, I've rented a house for your cousin. When she moves there, you'll be fine. She thanks him. After that, Soo-yeon gives the necklace to Hee-jin. Hee-jin says, now everything of yours will slowly become mine. At night, Shi-chang goes to Hee-jin and says, I know you don't have money, so whenever you need money, I'll help you. Then he leaves. Hee-jin, feeling jealous, thinks, why does everyone love Soo-yeon? Then she says to herself, I'm smarter than Soo-yeon. I can do better than her. After that, Hee-jin brings a glass of milk for Shi-chang and says, drink this, you'll sleep well. Shi-chang doesn't respond, so Hee-jin leaves the glass and goes away. The next day, Soo-yeon is in the kitchen when Hee-jin comes to her and says, Shi-chang worked late last night, he worked so hard, and you were just sleeping. Soo-yeon asks, how do you know? Hee-jin says, I saw the light on in his room, so I went to check and we talked a lot. I'm more capable than you, so Shi-chang and I have a lot in common. He told me that if I need money, he can give it to me. Soo-yeon says, impossible. Hee-jin says, why impossible? You can ask him yourself. If this continues, I won't need to ask you for money. He'll give it himself. In the next scene, Soo-yeon asks the assistant about her mom. He says, I've checked all the hospitals and nursing homes. Soo-yeon asks, is mom abroad? The assistant reassures her, something will work out. You should tell the boss everything. But Soo-yeon says, there's no point in telling him now. The assistant says, I'll check more nursing homes. You keep an eye on Hee-jin. Then Soo-yeon goes to Shi-chang, who gets happy seeing her and asks her to go to a movie. Soo-yeon says, you've become very naughty. Shi-chang says, such opportunities are rare, so let's go. On the other hand, Hee-jin is with mom. The nurse says she will recover soon. Hee-jin says, it's better if she recovers slowly. She'll get more rest. The nurse tells her, your mom is asking to talk to her daughter, Soo-yeon. Hee-jin says, Soo-yeon was my sister who died many years ago. My mom is sick, so she misses Soo-yeon more. At night, Hee-jin comes to Shi-chang's room with a drink. He says, I'm busy. Come later. Hee-jin says, you said I could come here anytime. Shi-chang says, yes, but when I want. I'm busy now. She comes close and says, if I don't leave, you gave me permission to come here. Don't blame me. I want you to drink with me. Shi-chang, drinking, says, I tolerate you for 2 reasons. First, you're Hee-jin's cousin, and second, Grandma kept you here. So stay within your limits, or my patience will run out. Hee-jin asks, do you have a problem with me? Shi-chang says, you might think all men are the same. You're misunderstanding me. Now Hee-jin leaves angrily. Outside, Hee-jin says to herself, Shi-chang, you insulted me. Now I won't spare you both. The next day, Shi-chang calls Hee-jin in front of Soo-yeon. When she comes, Shi-chang says, I need to talk to you. I've rented a house for you and paid the rent for a year. Hee-jin says, I know my place isn't here. I'll leave. Shi-chang says, because of you, my wife and I are disturbed. Now Hee-jin goes to Soo-yeon and says, you also want me to leave, right? You have to meet my mom too. Then she leaves. Now Shi-chang asks Soo-yeon, what's going on between you two? Soo-yeon says, nothing, I just don't want her to leave. Shi-chang, shocked, asks, do you really not want her to leave? She's troubled you so much. Soo-yeon says, we can't kick her out. Shi-chang says, I'm not kicking her out, I'm giving her a house. She shouldn't have come here. Soo-yeon says, she can't leave or I'll have to go too. Shi-chang says, you've never made such a strange demand. You know, she came to my room at night to create misunderstandings between us. Now Soo-yeon leaves saying, whatever happens, she won't leave. Now Hee-jin comes to Shi-chang, pretending to be good. I don't want you both to fight because of me. Shi-chang says, she trusts you. I don't know why, but you won't break her trust. In the next scene, Shi-chang is at a bar with the assistant. He asks, is there any issue because of Hee-jin's cousin? Shi-chang says, there's some problem with her cousin. She came to my room alone at night. I told her cousin to go to the rented house, but Hee-jin refused. He tells the assistant to bring Hee-jin's cousin's biodata. The assistant says, okay. In the next scene, Soo-yeon comes to Hee-jin's room and asks her, why did you go to Shi-chang's room? Hee-jin says, why should I tell you? Soo-yeon says, you came here in my place. I want what belongs to me. Soo-yeon says, my feelings for Shi-chang are not just for a contract. Hee-jin says, then go and tell him your truth. I won't do anything, but you can't do that. Soo-yeon asks her to bring mom back. Hee-jin tells her to get money from Shi-chang and arrange a dinner with him. Soo-yeon says, I will never do that. Hee-jin says, then forget about mom. Soo-yeon says, don't bully me by mentioning mom. I won't harm anyone for her. Hee-jin says, remember, my patience has limits. If I don't get my money in 3 days, I'll expose you to everyone, and I'll bring mom too. In the next scene, Shi-chang comes into the room and sees Soo-yeon sleeping on the sofa. He asks, why are you sleeping here? Su-yan smells him and asks, "Did you drink? Are you angry with me?" He says, "No, I just had a drink." Su-yan says, "Are you sure?" Shi-chang says, "Yes, I'm not angry with you. What I said in the evening was out of anger. Where and how your cousin lives is up to you." Su-yan hugs him and says, "You are very good." Shi-chang says, "The one I like is also very good." The next day, Su-yan goes to her friend. She asks, "What's your plan now?" Su-yan says, "I need to find Mom. If I find her, I won't have to fear Hee-jin's threats." Her friend says, "What if you don't find Mom?" The assistant says, "And if the boss finds out, he will be very angry because he hates lies." In the next scene, Hee-jin gets a call from the nursing home. She goes to Mom. Mom asks her about Su-yan. Hee-jin, irritated, says, "You only care about her. I arranged your treatment." Mom says, "I care about both of you. When I divorced your dad, the court gave you to him. I couldn't do anything." Hee-jin says, "Good thing. If I had lived with you, I would have been poor." On the other side, Su-yan brings a sandwich to Shi-chang. "I knew you hadn't eaten anything." He says, "It feels good that you care. Will you come like this every day?" Su-yan says, "Forget it." She extends her hand, asking for overtime pay. Shi-chang kisses her hand. Now Su-yan asks him to eat the sandwich. Shi-chang says, "My hands are in pain." Now Su-yan starts feeding him with her hands, and they share cute moments. Then Shi-chang asks, "Tell me why you came here?" Su-yan says, "Will you have dinner with my sister and me?" He asks, "Why?" Su-yan says, "Because of what you said yesterday. There might be misunderstandings between you two, but she's my sister, so let's clear everything face to face." He agrees and says, "I just want you to be happy." Su-yan hugs him. The next day, Su-yan sends Hee-jin the time and location for dinner. When Si-chang is sitting in the restaurant, Hee-jin arrives. She says, "I hope I didn't make you wait too long." Si-chang says, "No, I've ordered something. I hope you like it." Just then, Su-yan arrives. Su-yan says, "I went to the bathroom. I thought you would come later." Now Hee-jin says to Su-yan, "I need to go to the toilet. Can you take me?" Su-yan says, "Yes, why not?" Hee-jin asks her, "What's going on?" Si-chang was supposed to meet me. Su-yan says, "He called me, so what could I do? You need money, right? He said he wouldn't meet you without me. Now that you're here, eat and leave. If Si-chang likes you, only then will you get the money." Hee-jin says, "Remember, if you try any tricks, you won't even know what will happen to you." After that, the three of them have dinner. Su-yan, pretending to serve soup, spills it all over Hee-jin. When Hee-jin goes to clean up, Su-yan takes her mobile but doesn't know the password. After several attempts, Su-yan unlocks the phone and sends all the data to her friend, who tells the assistant, "I found out where her mom is." Meanwhile, Su-yan says to Hee-jin, "Sorry for today, I'll give you address." Hee-jin says, "No problem." Hee-jin says to Shi-chang, "Today's meal wasn't good. Can we have lunch or dinner again?" Shi-chang says, "Sure, come to the company. The employees' food is good there." Hee-jin smiles and leaves. Shi-chang tells Su-yan to rest. "I have some work to do." Su-yan says, "Don't work too much." After that, Su-yan's friend calls her and says, "We found your mom. Come quickly, we're waiting for you." Su-yan sneaks out. Shi-chang checks outside and goes back to the room. Su-yan arrives at the nursing home to see her mom. Her mom is very happy to see her. Now Su-yan's friend and the assistant tell them to leave. Just then, Hee-jin arrives. Now Shi-chang comes to the room looking for Su-yan. He lifts the blanket and finds pillows and is shocked. On the other side, Hee-jin says to Su-yan, "Who gave you permission to take Mom?" She pushes Su-yan and grabs Mom. Su-yan's friend intervenes and says, "I'm not afraid of anyone." Su-yan says, "You kept Mom away from me. I won't let her be taken away now." Hee-jin says, "I paid for her treatment." Su-yan says, "With money earned from fraud." Hee-jin starts hitting her. Just then, Shi-chang arrives. Everyone is shocked to see him. Hee-jin says to Shi-chang, "She hit me and is taking my mom away from me." Shi-chang asks, "Who are you?" Hee-jin says, "I'm the real Hee-jin. I signed the contract. I didn't think you would use my name for money." Su-yan starts to explain to Shi-chang, but he leaves. Su-yan follows him. Now Hee-jin goes to Mom, but the assistant says, "You won't come near Mom until Su-yan returns or I'll call the police." Now Su-yan stops Shi-chang and he says, "Okay, tell me, is what she said true?" Su-yan says yes. Shi-chang gets very angry and says, "If I mattered to you, you would have told me." Su-yan says, "I had no choice." Shi-chang says, "So your feelings for me were fake? Do you really love me?" Seeing her silence, Shi-chang leaves sadly. Now Su-yan comes home and cries a lot. Su-yan goes inside and says, "Shi-chang left me." The assistant says, "I'll talk to the boss." In the next scene, Shi-chang angrily asks the assistant, "Did you know everything? Why didn't you tell me?" The assistant says, "Su-yan was forced to do all this." Shi-chang says, "Why didn't she tell me? If she loved me, why did she hide it?" The assistant says, "Did you think about why she didn't tell you? She was afraid of losing you. She wasn't greedy for money." Shi-chang remains silent. In the next scene, Shi-chang calls Hee-jin to the office. When she arrives, her dad is sitting there. He sees her and starts scolding her. Shi-chang tells Hee-jin's dad to leave and says to Hee-jin, "You made a fake contract with me. I talked to a lawyer. He'll send you a letter in 3 days. You took a lot of money and left someone else in your place. Now you have to return that money threefold." Hee-jin says, "I don't have the money." Shi-chang says, "You did wrong things, but you have a brain." Hee-jin says, "I don't understand why you are taking Soo-yan's side so much." Shi-chang says, "And I don't understand why you were bullying Soo-yan." Hee-jin says, "Because she has hurt me since childhood. Mom took her with her. If Mom had taken me, her disapproval would have been mine too." Shi-chang says, "She has made me and her friends with her hard work and affection. I'll give you money because of Soo-yan so you can get out of your problems." Hee-jin asks, "Won't you file a case against me?" Shi-chang says, "If you want that, thank Soo-yan." Then Hee-jin calls Mom and asks, "If you had to choose between Soo-yan and me, would you choose me?" Mom says, "No, I would keep both of you." Now Soo-yan tells Hee-jin to go back. "We'll both stay with Mom." Hee-jin says, "I've troubled you a lot, so I can't come to you." Soo-yan calls Shi-chang and says, "I'm leaving here. I want to tell you that my feelings for you were not fake. I didn't want to hurt you, so I hid everything from you." Shi-chang listens. Soo-yan says, "I love you and sorry," and ends the call. Just then, Shi-chang's assistant comes and says, "We had a misunderstanding. I saw the CCTV footage from the interview to the parking lot. It was Soo-yan." He gives Shi-chang Soo-yan's resume and says, "If you don't stop her now, you'll never see her again." Shi-chang starts thinking. Now he rushes to the airport. Soo-yan is also at the airport with Mom. Shi-chang looks for them but can't find them. Then a scene shows 4 months later. Soo-yan and Mom are at their old house. Mom says to Soo-yan, "Don't be sad, you work so hard." Soo-yan says, "I like doing all this." Mom says, "Because of me, you both separated." Soo-yan says, "Forget the past," and leaves. In the next scene, Shi-chang messages Soo-yan from an unknown number asking, "Why don't you go live?" Soo-yan says, "I'm living a peaceful life." Shi-chang says, "Life wasn't peaceful before?" Soo-yan says, "It's a long story. My special person, whom I loved from the heart, left me. The time I spent with him was the best time. I miss him a lot." Shi-chang asks, "Do you still like him?" Soo-yan says, "Yes, I still love him." This makes Shi-chang happy. In the next scene, Soo-yan is at her job. She sees Shi-chang. Shi-chang passes by without seeing her. When Soo-yan comes home, she doesn't find Mom. She finds a note, "I'm at the beach." Soo-yan goes there and starts calling for Mom. Just then, Shi-chang arrives. Soo-yan is shocked. He apologizes and says, "We've been apart for a long time, but my feelings for you haven't changed." He says, "I love you." Soo-yan says, "My lies caused you a lot of pain." Shi-chang says, "You met me for the first time on that road." Then a scene shows Shi-chang being introduced. He is scared. Just then, Soo-yan arrives and helps him. In the present, Soo-yan says, "That girl was you." Shi-chang says, "Yes, let's forget everything and start a new life." Soo-yan refuses. Just then, the assistant turns on the lights, where "Marry Me" is written. Shi-chang proposes to her. Soo-yan says yes, then they kiss. In the next scene, Soo-yan comes to Grandma with Mom. She tells her about their wedding, and the drama ends here. How much rating would you give this drama, and which was your favorite scene? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos.